Hello there, WeirdShady here, back with another video about something that I feel like I have something to say anything about. So, Joker FOLIE À DEUX. I'm just gonna call it Joker 2, because I can't pronounce French words for shit, even if only to save my own life. That's really bad, since I have studied French for 3 years at least. Joker 2 is that kind of movie that no one expected it to be, or wanted it to be in a certain degree, and that's pretty clear after all the enraged audiences and fan reactions to the movie after its release. The director also told us that Joker 2 is a movie that would split the fanbase. More in one direction really, but you know. And I absolutely understand why people did react to it the way they did. Joker 2 went in a direction that many of the fans of the original didn't necessarily want it to take. Mind you, this is a video that's containing a lot of spoilers, so do be wary when stepping forward. So many people on the internet keep telling us that the movie isn't worth watching at all, and that it keeps getting worse and worse. Others say that those other people simply don't understand the movie, since it's some kind of meta-commentary about the audience watching it. So, which one is it? I think it's a mix of both. I think it's a movie that's not for the mainstream audience, that expected Joker 2 to be a pure Joker sequel in a sense. I think it's fair to say that this movie is not for everyone, not even in the slightest. I have so many people that I know that don't like the movie, like at all, and that's fair game. But I also think that they didn't really see the idea that the movie was trying to communicate with the audience.
You know, that's just like your opinion, man.
Everyone I know that saw the movie got mad because they wanted the character of Arthur Fleck to fully become the Joker.
I'm the Joker, baby!
Instead of what I think that the movie wanted us to see. And in my opinion, I think it wanted us to see a man so small that he had to do some drastic measures in order to be seen. And after doing that, the people of the city didn't really see him as the person he is, but rather the persona of the Joker, which he created after being fed up with not being seen in the first place. And I believe that if you, as a person, are used to not being seen, then get such a fan reaction and appreciation because of said drasticality, but not for who you truly are, then you wouldn't feel so good about it either, I can imagine. I am absolutely certain about it, because that is indeed a natural thing to feel when put in that kind of situation. In Joker 2, Arthur Fleck is faced with a dilemma where he had to make a choice whether he wanted to continue his court hearing as Arthur or the Joker. Lee, the newest version of Harley Quinn, was the main person, other than his fanbase running around the entire city, that tried to push him into becoming the Joker full-time. I had the feeling when Lee talked to Arthur for the first time that she told him exactly what he wanted and needed to hear, because she was super smitten with the Joker persona and not with Arthur himself. So she said all of those things that were so true to him in the first movie. She was even a fan of the so-called, air quote, film that they made about him, which I think is a reference to the first movie itself, or the cartoon from the start of the second movie. But who's to say, really? And what have we learned, people? That all publicity is good publicity? I really don't think that's the case. I don't really understand why the movie had to be a musical, though. I understood from the get-go that the, air quote, musical segments were in Arthur's head because of his mental illness. But I feel like it lasted too long and came up too many times. Just my opinion of it, of course, but other than that, no problems at all with it. Because I know that the musical parts were meant as a visual representation of the feeling that Arthur felt unchained inside, especially since he was unable to talk to someone about it for such a long time. I personally thought that the singing and dancing led up to him actually turning into the Joker, as a manifestation of the performer, the twisted entertainer that he's known for in the comics and earlier media-related representations of the same character. That he was embracing the fun, charismatic, and violent clown prince of crime with the highest of self-esteem that we know that Arthur himself does not possess. But it turned out to be a representation of what he could have become if he were in fact able to do so. As I recall, in the first movie, he slowly started to feel free from his barriers and oppression that his life threw at him constantly, with dancing. We kind of got the idea that he had some kind of music inside of him. During the scene in the public bathroom, after killing the 3 Wall Street guys on the train, where he started dancing, was the start of something menacing and twisting evolving inside of him. So, the territorial musical sprinkling in the sequel, in my mind, was meant to show that he's fully freed, ready to become the Joker.
But it isn't true.
Instead, he left the Joker persona behind, as well as losing Lee in the process, because he felt that he had to keep up a performance for the people and for Lee. And poor Arthur just wanted to be done with it. Because after he realized that his actions had such a terrifying effect on the only guy who was nice to him at his former workplace, he had a change of heart. And after finding Lee at the top of the stairs at the end, he still had the hope that she saw him for who he truly was, as Arthur Fleck. But sadly for him, she didn't. Lee was done with him because he, air quote, gave up on the idea that was the Joker. And I do like to think that the end where he asks Lee to stop singing is a way of showing that he has indeed left it behind, completely. One thing I am still confused about, legitly, is the whole shtick with the child. Did she lie about it only to keep Arthur around because he started to slip away because of her constant lies? Or was she actually pregnant? And the child will now potentially become the next Joker that is molded from her own vision of what that looks like? Or could the next Joker be the unknown inmate that we vaguely see throughout the entire movie in the slight background? You know, the one guy that stabs Arthur with a shiv at the end multiple times, leaving Arthur to bleed to death, only to cut a smile into his own face? Could he be the representation of the Joker that Arthur couldn't become? After seeing these 2 movies in the span of 2 days, and hearing all the crying and anger that fans have been projecting towards this movie, I am more than convinced that the world we live in is kind of too much into the romanticization of serial killers and criminals. People gushing over Jeffrey Dahmer from the Dahmer series, for example, after it was released, was too much in my opinion. It kind of takes away from the gruesome and evil deeds that the killers have done, and the traumatizing effects that it has had in the world. Especially when 15-year-olds dress up as them for Halloween and crushes over the real-life killers?
As with anything on the internet, Jeffrey Dahmer has a following, and it is a very scary one.
This really isn't a new phenomenon either, but let's not get into that. You get my point, hopefully. My general idea here is that, since we live in this world where we are so used to serial killers and the romanticizing of it all, we, the audience, would like Arthur to become the very thing that he himself did not want to become. Very much so, just like the people of the city wanted him to. They also didn't care about the person behind the makeup, as the audience also forgot about quite often. At the end of the first film, we see Arthur dancing on top of a crushed car during the somber and disturbing tunes of the soundtrack, as if we are witnessing a gruesome tragedy in the making, the creation of the Joker. But instead of actually turning into the Joker at this moment, we only get a taste of what he could have become. That's at least what I interpretate. That's at least what I interpretate while rewatching the scene after seeing Joker 2. That he was misled by the attention, and that he actually thought that he was doing something good for once in his own twisted mind. And he got falsely rewarded for it. I saw the first Joker movie in cinemas 4 times, and I was amazed by it. I was amazed that I could feel so nasty afterwards, but still being blessed by amazing filmmaking when witnessing the tragedy that befell this mentally ill man. The scene where he is on top of the car had my head wrapped around it so intensely. My personal reaction of it, the first times around, was that it's really horrifying to watch. It's sad and it's brutal. A monster was about to be created, born from the pain and the corruption. But it was also fascinating in a good way, since I am indeed a massive Joker fan. It's so weird, because after the credits started rolling, I felt kind of cheated, felt like I was robbed of what could have been a good movie. I didn't really understand it at all. I had so many questions, and they were left unanswered. But as I was writing this script, I got to thinking more about it. I got to draw connections that I didn't previously see and failed to notice right away. I actually feel that I understand the movie much better now, in my own way of course. I also get to see the first movie in a whole other light, after so long. What a crazy experience! These 2 movies were never about the character of the Joker, even though the title of the movie says so.
Joker.
But it's more of the idea of the Joker. It was always about Arthur Fleck, much to many people's distaste. The director has also come out and said that Arthur was never meant to be the real Joker that we know and love from the comics. Because in the comics, Joker has almost never been known as a normal person. His origin is mostly unknown, so having a specific person becoming the Joker is not really that correct, I dare to say. He could potentially be the inspiration for the Joker later on, and this movie shows it rather well. Arthur was never meant to be the Joker. He was just a person that nobody cared for, a man that wore a name that the writers just found, out of the blue. A name that has no other meaning other than generally being a name for a generally unknown man. The concept of a Joker running around shouldn't really be encouraged, should it? At least not in real life. Something that I feel that these movies somewhat represent very well. I just think that if they took a slightly different approach, it would stick its landing much better for a wider percent of the audience. If you didn't like this movie, that is a-okay. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Movies are subjective, because many people have different takes and opinions on much and many things in life. Me, personally, like movies and other media that makes me feel and/or think about it for long periods of time afterwards. But hey, it's not a perfect movie. Not in a long shot. I agree that Joker 2 isn't the most exciting movie to rewatch on repeat, because not many things happen in the duration of the playtime. I do more like the idea that the movie is portraying rather than the full-on delivery that we got, but I still think it's a good movie in its own right.
Bang!
But that's all I had for today. Joker 2, what did you think about it? Did you get it after seeing it? Or did you dislike it with your very heart's contempt? Let me know, let me know. Thank you very much for watching, and fare thee well for now.